Welcome to episode 45. I'm Zach.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Ryan.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, he's here. He's ready to blow our minds with this crazy stuff. So for those of you who you definitely recognize him because actually he's way bigger than us. But Ryan here, he's the artist with the gorgeous Porsche cars. He's been doing incredible body work. We got him to vote on, like, we've got our 944 that everybody knows about that I've been working on for forever.
Mm-hmm.
He voted that we Safari it. And Ryan, I'm not going to lie, like, we had a lot of people vote and yours was kind of the only one we cared about. Like, everybody voted both ways and we're like, well, Ryan said Safari, so we have to Safari.
Well, also the majority said the other way. And we put that up with no intention of doing anything but Safari. It was like,
I don't even
hey,
know
let's
what the
put
other
this
way
out
was.
there, but
What was
it
the
was
other way?
either
like
it was either gonna be
stance
Safari or like an autocross thing, lowered and sport tires and
that's what
stuff
it
like
was,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, the current thought, I have the WRX that's gonna be like the autocross kind of car, and the 944 is so slow, like standard anyway. So it either is like a lot of money and engine swap, or just like make it tall and cool looking.
it's kind of funny because
pretty
you'll be
good
a
with
little opposite. You're gonna have like the rally car, as the street we and then the street car as the rally car.
That's true.
Whatever, it's fine.
That's very weird. So anyway, Ryan, with you on the show today, like we have like not generic, but like general questions that we're curious about that you probably get asked all the time, just about like how you got into cars in general. But like, why don't you, can you introduce us? Like, introduce yourself to anybody who hasn't seen you yet. What do you do?
Okay.
Whole jazz.
I can do that. Yeah. So my name is Ryan Krause. I work for two companies. I work for Translog for Porsche, where I do custom Porsche like restoration and mechanical work and the usual like mom and pop shop kind of stuff, but for Porsches. And then I also co-own Crucible Coachwerks, which is the shirt I'm wearing right now, which is actually more like a media company, but we mainly focus on doing like wide body extreme Porsches. So we did like the Porsche 996 Slantnose that I'm sure many people have seen with the crazy, much hated paint scheme on it. And currently we're doing the 928 wide body project, which is actually for our first client.
Oh, so cool.
Nice.
I didn't realize that was a client build.
Yep.
That car has been so neat to watch, and I'm so excited, hoping that a 944 is in the future somewhere here.
Hey, it can
Well,
be.
so I will say that we have an idea for a shop project that involves a 944. So
Very cool. So
we have a 944 that was originally like the shop's like autocross SCCA car or whatever. It's like full,
cool.
Nice.
It's like stripped down and tube and all that stuff. So
very cool.
This is some foreshadowing within the next year or so that might be a thing. So
Cool.
you're the first to
That's
know.
exciting. Super
Sweet.
pumped. Yeah,
You heard it here first, folks.
that all sounds awesome. So like, how long have you been doing the Crucible Coachwerks thing, like the media side of it, and then how long have you been working on cars? Because you're doing like crazy, like there's like people who work on cars, but you're doing like ridiculous levels of art with like reshaping the body panels and being true to like what the original vehicle was. How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I should probably like rewind even further back a little bit to make it make more sense. Like roughly 10-ish years ago, I was doing like construction work and I hated it. It was just, it was a job. It wasn't like my passion or whatever. And I ended up just like one day just leaving that. I was like screw this, I'm out. I quit. And I just picked up a detailing job at a dealership that my brother was a collision repairman at. So I did detailing for about a year there. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to try like the auto body stuff that looks kind of interesting. Because at the time, like in high school, like way even before then in high school, like I didn't really care much about cars. Like I liked them, but like I didn't know much about them or whatever. And then got out of high school, I got into cars, and then I had some full cars and, went up through that, like, oh, what's a turbo? This is awesome kind of thing. that phase everyone gets into. They're like,
the slippery slope.
There's more to this. So yeah, I went through that phase and then I started detailing there. And then I apprenticed under my brother, Brad, to do collision repair work. And I realized, like, wow, like this is actually kind of fun. Like I get to like actually, because I originally wanted to do like graphic design or something like art related. So I was like, well, this is kind of like the same thing. Like it's art related. Like you're fixing stuff too, so it's a little more satisfying. So I was there for a couple of years doing that, and then realized that collision repair wasn't entirely what I wanted to do to the cars. I wanted to do more custom work and like higher end like restoration and whatnot. So my roommate at the time was telling me that his employer, Translog from Porsche, was hiring for a body man. I was like, hey, I'll try out for that. So I ended up switching over to doing that because I got hired there. And then when I was working there, Tony, who was also the co-owner of Crucible Coachwerks, he's like the co-host on our YouTube channel. He was like, hey, do you want to do like metal shaping, because I have these like the guy's name's Lassie, Lazze. He does metal shaping in California. He does like a hot rod class and whatnot for like English wheel and everything else. He's like, this guy's really good. I have all his DVDs. You should watch these, and if you want to do it, I'll send you to one of his classes. I was like, okay, I'll try it out. That sounds kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So
That's so cool.
The day that he opens, so basically every year he opens like a, I don't know if he still does it this way now, but back then, one day a year he would open up like the, what do you call it? The scheduling for his classes, and like they sell out immediately. So we immediately jumped on and got in one, and I was like, okay, great. I got in the class finally, so I'm going to go do this. So I went to California, did that metal shaping class, and it like blew my mind because we had like a Harbor Freight English wheel in the shop, and then it was garbage. Like it kind of works.
I didn't even know Harbor
but
Freight
like
made
it well they still do, but you can only buy it with one anvil. So like it's almost useless because you need different radiuses in the bottom. But anyway, so I went to this class, right, and realized that like this is really cool. I want to do this. This is exactly what I hyperfixate on for the rest of my life, kind of moment. and then to add to that, Lassie pulled me aside in his office and he was like, "Dude, like you're good at this. You have to do this." And I was like, "Oh, so I guess this is real now." So then when I came back, I was like, "Hey, so they said this," and Tony was like, "Well, I guess we're doing this." So at that time, Tony had this idea. He had the original idea for the Slantnose 996. He's like, I have this red 996 with a blown engine that I had this magazine. He pulled it out. Actually, it's this really old magazine. I forget which magazine it was, but it has like a 935 Slantnose on it, a red one.
Gotcha.
And he's like, I want to do this, but do it on a 996 instead of a the original Slantnose.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do it. So then that's when we started like, okay, I'm going to chop this thing up. I'm going to use some foam. I'm going to figure out the profiles and whatnot. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. I was told I'm good at this. I can do this just fine. And yeah, it didn't go that great. Needless to say, it was a little rough. So at that point, I was like, well, this is good practice. So we were kind of like one day a month or like sometimes one day a week, we would just kind of fiddle around with it and try to figure out, okay, what we're going to do with this, if I can handle doing the metal shaping on that, what I need to learn. And then at that point, I was like, I need more training and I need more time to learn. And then I slid into, are you guys familiar with Chris Runge? He does like
aluminum.
Name
sounds familiar.
Like he's like polished aluminum, like Porsche based coach builds in Minnesota.
Interesting.
Cool.
So he does he does. I'm not gonna say they're one offs. I think he might do duplicates, but he does like from the ground up, like full chassis and everything too.
Wow. Okay.
So I
but
slid
like
into his
primarily
DMs.
like aluminum work stuff.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Because he kind of made it. He was like, I saw him on Jay Leno's garage because two of his cars were featured on it, and it was like 4 years ago, maybe. I want to say 4 years ago. And I actually had been like following his work a little bit online in general at that time. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna slide in this guy's DMs and see if he'll like do like a one-on-one kind of class thing because I want to learn more. And there's not many classes around, and most of the classes are like American hot rod based or whatever, which like is not really entirely my interest. I'm more into European vehicles. So I slid into Chris's DMs and he's like, I never say yes to people, but for some reason I'm going to say yes to you. So I was like, okay,
that's
deal.
awesome.
So cool, dude.
I don't know how that worked out either, but so yeah, I ended up going out to Minnesota for, it was like 3 or 4 days to do it one-on-one with him. And he Lassie built like the basis for it for me, and then I went to Chris Runge and he had like an entirely different approach that like expounded upon that like substantially. Like it went from like, okay, here's like the knowledge I had, and then I took that knowledge and then like tripled it and like redistributed everything in it. So it's really hard to explain, but like the way that he approached it made way more sense to me than it did with Lassie. Lassie had like just an entirely different practice with it. And not that either way is wrung, because there's like a million different ways to do it, which is another thing it taught me as well. It's like, oh, there's actually more ways than one to do this. So anyway, so yeah, Chris Runge kind of like expanded the horizon with that for me. And I came back and I was like, we need to do the Slantnose. Like, I got this now. We actually ended up buying Chris Runge's English wheel, which is the giant big black and red one I have in the shop that everybody oogles over.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
We'll post a photo here.
Yeah. Photo. You can put the photo of me dabbing on it or whatever you want. Because I'm a 30-year-old man in 2023 who still dabs.
30-year-old hot boy over here.
So as you're talking about this, like, I had no clue that the Slantnose was like your first big project like this. Because from our perspective, you're like pinnacle, super pro at this. You've been doing this forever. This is just your next project. I'm shocked that that was your first one. That it's incredible. But it's so cool too that like even you saying like you went out to the class, came back, you're like, cool, I guess I'll fixate on this. It's like, wait, are all car guys the same?
Yeah,
Do we all just
like this?
we all weirdly hyper fixate on random stuff? And
Yes.
that's why weird. So that's interesting to hear. But dude, that's crazy. So then
Yeah.
now you come back, you've taken a
Yep.
second class now, and you've had
Yep.
and that's cool that it's like, oh, there's not one way, it's just get it done. And there's a lot of different ways to
Mhm.
skin a cat there. So then
Yep.
you come back and you're like, okay, we're doing the Slantnose now. So like when did that totally kick off? Like when did you guys have that moment of, yes, we're doing this now for sure, and then getting into it?
Yeah, it's really hard to pin that exactly because we had still been kind of picking at it. And before I left to go to Chris Runge's class, I had already had like the fender like extremely roughed in and the quarter panel roughed in. And when I say roughed in, I mean I had multiple sheets of metal that kind of like loosely bent and tacked in place, so I could then do like clay work or whatever we decided to do over top of it to figure out the design. And that's what I had sent to Chris as like reference, like here's like where I'm at, like I want to get better. What like can you fix me please, kind of thing. And I think coming back, like being at that class and then coming back and seeing like his process and like how he woke up every morning. His shop was actually in his, like he lived at a shop basically. It was like his little garage outside at the time on his property. And I was like, that's the life I want to live. I want to wake up and get my coffee, walk across to my old timey English wheel, and I want to bend some metal. That sounds great. So when I came back and Tony and I were talking about it, we were both like, we need to do this. Like Tony and I are a team together, obviously, and like so I can't take all the credit for the Slantnose build or the other builds, but I'm more like the metal fab side, and he's more like the I'm smart mechanical side, and he knows all the math stuff. I don't like the math stuff very much. Yes, both important.
Like, I'm going to make it look pretty.
Exactly.
You make sure it actually goes.
Exactly. And to his credit too, he has a design. We have a very similar design as well, so that's why we mesh together so well with our projects. So anyway, yeah, I think the Chris Runge class is what like springboarded me into like, okay, we need to do this kind of thing. And Tony was on board as well. And then when he came back is when we kind of hit the ground running. Okay, we're going to work at this thing more often now. I'm going to make it work because it's obviously a huge money drain. I'm going to come in at like 4:35 a.m., work on it for 2 hours every day in the morning. And then I started doing that for a little while and, you know, posting up like photos of it and whatnot. And this is where we kind of segue into your original question of like the media side of it and whatnot. I started to like, because at the time, like every now and then I put a photo out, you know, on Instagram, you know, back in the day when people like cared about photos on Instagram.
When Instagram was a photo platform.
Exactly. I was putting photos up and every now and then something would like blow up like, oh wow, I got 1,000 likes on that. Like this is big for me. This is people actually like the Slantnose. We got to keep doing this kind of thing. So, excuse me. So that happened, and then that's when my wife was like, "Hey, you should make a TikTok." And I was like, "No, I don't want a TikTok." Like, that was at the time that like nobody really used TikTok except for the Gen Z and you know, people with like the dance or whatever. So I was like, this doesn't make any sense, kind of thing. So I said no for a while, and then eventually I made a reel on Instagram, and it was a super simple one. It was like before after of like putting body panels on one of the track cars at the shop, and it like within 10 minutes of posting it had like 10,000 views, and like I had like was like like my phone's just ding 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 ding. That's when I have my notifications turned on, so now they're never on, kind of thing. But then that's when I was like, okay, I guess I'll make a TikTok finally. So then I did the same thing, and I started like figuring out my formula for like what my style is and how, you know, people have short attention spans, how to make it work. And that's when like the things kind of clicked. I was like, I could do kind of both things I want to do. I wanted to be in the graphic design and I want to build cars. I can do both at the same time now. So that's when Tony and I put our heads together. Okay, we're going to start an LLC of Crucible Coachwerks. We're going to make an actual media company. Like we're going to actually do it right, kind of thing. So yeah, that's where we're at now. And then that's when we finally, because at the time I was like, I wanted to do YouTube because YouTube's obviously like the major platform for long-term builds and all that stuff. But obviously, as I'm saying, obviously like it's obvious, but like I think it's common knowledge now that like YouTube is very saturated and doesn't pay as well as it used to. Like all those things, it's a lot more tougher to get into. But we were like, you know what, we're gonna do this. So we hired because at the time I was actually filming it myself. Like I do my TikToks and whatnot, and editing it in the evenings and stuff like that, and like putting up like one video a month to see what would happen, because people have been begging on TikTok and everything else to have me make a YouTube channel. And then of course, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but if you have a YouTube channel and you mention that YouTube channel on any other platform, people don't go to that YouTube channel. And also you're going to get throttled. I don't care what TikTok says, you get throttled when you mention YouTube 100%. Or any other platform. You'll go from like, I had
canceled.
Exactly. It's exactly what happens. Unless that clip is extremely good and they're like, okay, we're not going to throttle this one so it doesn't look bad.
Right.
It's inevitable. So,
getting them to bridge the gap between the two is so hard, but it's
like
difficult.
Spell it wrong and like say it. Yeah, I've seen that other people done. I think I've done it a few times too in posting of just like link in bio, but like Abraham Lincoln, like bio something, like changing it up so it doesn't get. I'm sure all that stuff gets flagged too. But
exactly, Leet speak is your friend. Put zeros for the O's and all that stuff. So then that's when we hired Logan, which is actually Tony's son, and he had interest in filming and editing for us. So he learned on the job and has been doing that for the past year. And as of lately, actually, things are moving. It took a while, but we're there now. I say there.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at stuff.
We're approaching.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking at. I don't know if I remember when you guys started the YouTube or if I just remember when I noticed that you guys had the YouTube and we're looking at it. But I was looking at it either yesterday or this morning. I was like, holy cow, it's like blowing up.
Yeah. Yep. Like
that's awesome.
It's been sweet. And like
which is not surprising. I mean, we saw, I don't know who found it. You probably found it first, the Slantnose thing.
Yeah. And you were all over my algorithm, dude. Because we were kind of the same. Like we started the show and then it just took a lot of work to get TikToks and stuff out. And so we were like, well, we'll just do audio and video and that's it. And then we cut video for a while. And then we're like, well, that's the only way we're going to grow. And we kind of all, I think, got TikTok because same deal. Our wives were like, this is great. You should get one. Yeah. And then we had it just to consume, but we didn't put anything on for a while. And then it was just that, like, you were all over mine. And I just kept like, this is nuts to see. Like, I didn't know people, I don't know, like everybody's doing like Liberty Walk kits or like eBay fender flares and stuff like that. And then here you are like, trying to capture the essence of like how Porsche would have approached a Slantnose.
Like I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't. And you're the only. I mean, you're the only one I've seen who does that.
Right.
And like does the total. It's basically like the hot rod thing, like you said. Like there's probably a lot of spaces like that where they're custom doing the metal stuff, but like for European cars, and as they would be for European cars, because it's very easy to take a European car and make it JDM, right? And those are sick too. Like love that stuff. But it's very difficult to like continue, I feel like, the curves and like the character of a European car and still make it sick and modify it. And like,
so like we like found your TikToks and we would just text it back and forth like, okay, this is sick. And then to see that, and then we like, then our Instagram, we started paying more attention there. And then we're like, oh, he's got Instagram. Oh, he's got like a huge Instagram. And then it's like, oh, he has YouTube. Oh, he's like a huge YouTube. Like this guy's like doing it. Like you have all
other people actually love this too. Yeah. Like this is really cool.
Like it's super cool to see all of that, like all of that kind of blowing up for you guys. So have you had like,
thank you.
I'm assuming you've had a bunch of like whether it's brands like reaching out trying to work with you on different things or different shows and stuff, like what's that been like as the Slantnose builds and then now you're into the 928, like has there been a lot of just like that being pulled different directions, or what does that look like for you guys?
Yes, actually, I'm trying to figure out what I can say, what I can't say right now, because there's a lot of things going on that I can't talk about. Which is
that's fine. And if you say something we got to cut, we can cut.
So
this is not actually live.
Which is nice for the situation. In the past, I would say, well, the past year in general has been a lot of like hit up for ads, and it's usually stuff that I wouldn't want to put my name on, so I usually like to say no to or whatever. And for a little bit there, I had an era where like every 3D printing company in the world was like, please use my printer kind of thing. And then I was like, sure, I'll take your printers. Give me all your 3D printers. And then the one noticed that I used a different company and then they would stop talking to me, that kind of whole thing. Whatever. Which is kind of funny because they all use the same parts anyway. But that being said, so yeah, since like things blowing up and the Slantnose and publications being written on the Slantnose and whatnot, starting on the 928, we've had a lot of random opportunities pop up. A lot of them are like you want to pay me what to do what for 30 seconds kind of stuff. It's like, okay, like, sure, I'll do that. And then I get texts from my friends like, I've seen you in another ad for this company in my feed. When I'm tired of opening my phone at 7 a.m. in the morning and there's your face as an ad. Like, you need to stop doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, and there's other stuff going on as well that I wish I could talk about. It's killing me that I can't talk about it yet. But I'm trying to think of what I could say that isn't over the line. There are things in the works that I'm not 100% sure are going to happen or not that involve other platforms that are broader.
Interesting. I like the
I like how
vagueness
vague
of
that
it.
is.
Yeah.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Is he running for president? Is that what he just said?
Oh no.
We're going there.
Oh no. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that because you definitely deserve it, man. Like the stuff that you've, I don't know, just seeing how you put it together has been awesome. But yeah, I'm glad that you're getting that level of attention. And I would imagine too, this is kind of like feeding back into like kind of increase the day job stuff. Have you seen business pick up in general, like on Porsche stuff? And do you guys do stuff outside of Porsche, or is it just Porsches that you guys do?
So we do specifically Porsche only. Every blue moon we'll do like something that's adjacent or like that's very niche. Like we have some customers that have large collections that have really rad cars. Like, oh, you want to bring your Bizzarini by? Sure, we'll look at your Bizzarini kind of thing. But
you know what a Bizzarini is? I don't know what that is.
I don't want to sound dumb. What's a Bizzarini?
A Bizzarini, I want to say what it is, but I'm going to butcher it, and someone's going to murder me in the comments. But it's
that's okay. Right. He can't say Koenigsegg.
Those get the best views. Butcher it.
Yeah, exactly. To my knowledge, without looking it up to confirm myself, Bizzarini was started from people who left Ferrari. Designers left Ferrari and did their own coach building. Am I correct in what you're looking up right now?
Yeah,
I believe it was Ferrari.
It looks like a video game Ferrari
356 or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is really
they're
cool.
they're coach built aluminum cars that were rad, and like we have a customer that's two of them.
Wow.
And one of them is the whatever model it is that's like over $1 million. Like they're like top tier whatever fancy boy one. And I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
They still make them or
no? They don't.
That was like back in the day. They broke off.
I don't remember what year that was. It's got to be
interesting.
Like 50s or 60s or something like that. I don't really know.
Looks like it. Yeah.
So you had mentioned that they're a coach built car. What is coach built? Because I know that's in your Crucible Coachwerks too. I don't know we're not familiar with that term.
So coach building is not really like an American term, but even if you go overseas now to like Europe, they refer to like body shops as like coach like they call them carrosseries or whatever.
Oh,
so coach building is like because like you like think of like vehicles were called coaches back in the day kind of thing. So it's like a more traditional way of saying it, and which actually I'm gonna springboard like lightly off of that too, and say like when I first started doing TikTok and stuff like that, and I was like blowing up in your feed. That's because the people who are doing coach building are like kind of stuck in the 1930s. I think like they don't like fun.
yeah
kind of thing like that, like especially the ones who are anybody who's very good at it. They're I'm not, this is nothing negative towards them, but like they don't fit on TikTok kind of thing.
They're not sitting there trying to like, oh, this would be cool online. They're probably just like, shut up with the internet, I'm just gonna do my thing kind of
exactly the best like coach builders, metal shapers have no social media kind of thing. Like they're the people that make the most incredible things.
Well, until now.
Yeah, until now.
Until now.
Shameless.
Hold on, hang on. I rescind that comment. No, yeah, and in fact, a buddy of mine, Toby Southen on Instagram, he and I have a very similar humor, and like I think we're about the same age, and he does incredible metal shape. You've probably seen him in your feed before too. He does like a lot of aluminum work. He doesn't work on cars so much anymore. He does more like art pieces. But you should definitely look him up. He does crazy work, and he and I think are like the two that are willing to do the most stupid things in our workshop and have fun with it. While also doing cool stuff. So so anyway, back to the original question with the Coachwerks and coach building whatnot. If you're like a coach builder, that means that you can like do like a whole car kind of thing, not like I just focus on paint or I just focus on whatever. It's I actually build the car kind of thing,
and like hand built. Like it's more along the I don't know what the word is for it. Hand built, I guess.
Hard to
that
tell.
can be the word. Hand built.
Same,
sort of
something
lane.
like that.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's something I had to your point, none of them are really on social media. Like I had never really seen anything like that before.
Right.
Till you start sending me his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, never
crazy.
ever. And like I think I started seeing your stuff. So we have my wife has a Jeep TJ that she's had. It was her first car, and like she had it for years, and it had like typical rust stuff. And so I had like that's the only body work experience I ever have at all was like really jankily like fixing floor pans and then trying to repair the rust and go around and paint like the front fenders, the grill, all like that part of it. So I got like a really cheap like Amazon spray gun and like Googled like urethane mixing ratios and stuff. And like, dude, never have I had so much respect for what you do to like do that. Cause like I peeled tape off at one point and I like ripped some of the paint off and tried to like fix that. And I thought I did a great job. You can see it so bad. It looks horrible.
Yep.
But like
I made all those mistakes too. Don't worry.
That's on her car though. So when I get around to the Porsche, we're gonna be golden.
You practiced on hers.
Yeah.
Like a good husband.
But dude, like to see that level of it, like how many, like I've seen a couple clips in the background of your videos of like how many cars you guys have in your shop. Like how many projects are you guys juggling at a time? Because it seems like you have a ton of things floating around, like a ton of things.
We have a ton of things. So like a lot of the builds, like this Translog for Porsche in general, which is where like our shop, like Crucible Coachwerks share space and all that stuff. Translog for Porsche, we do anything from like, oh, you need new tires on your 911 to like, oh, you need a full repaint and engine rebuild. So like anything from like a 1-day job to like, this is gonna be a 2-year experience because you want to do a full restoration and like original parts, like all get everything plated, all those things that and there's only Tony included. There's 4 of us. I think 4 of us that do like the actual like work. Wow. And then we have like office helpers stuff like that too. So to keep up with everything, we jump back and forth between projects. Like every week, we'll do a week in this car, then we'll do a week in this car, and we'll do a day in that car kind of thing. Because number one, we got to spread it out to keep things moving, and number two, as you can imagine, doing a full restoration or a full custom build is not necessarily cheap either. So it's kind of like, okay, we'll work on your car for 100 hours, and then when you pay for the 100 hours, work on the next 100 hours kind of thing. So that leads to a lot of vehicles sitting in different stages of progress in the shop. So to add up, I don't remember how many cars we have there now. In fact, we've plowed through a bunch lately. But there's got to be, if you include Tony's projects and everything else too, there's at least 25 cars at the shop right now.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah,
that is so cool. What is the scale? So you mentioned, I'm going to say the name wrong probably, but whatever, Bizzarini. You mentioned that car, and then you dropped the like very casual fact, like, whatever, one's over $1 million. So anyway, I went on to that. Like, okay, like what is the scariest thing like that you've had to cut into? Because like even like changing the oil on something's one thing, but like doing your job, that's pretty high commit.
Just get right into the fender there.
Yeah. Scariest thing I've cut into. So I'm not really sure how to answer that, because nowadays, if I cut into something, it's a car is a car to me. Like if it's
interesting,
Corolla. I mean, not that I really want to work in Corolla, but if it's a Corolla or if it's a GT3 RS, to me it's the same thing. I'm going to give it the same amount of like care, as the same quality, the same carefulness. But like I can list off cars that I've cut into. I guess like I've worked on. Are you familiar with what an Intermechanica Italia is? It's another like niche coach built company. I forget what year they broke off from.
Ooh.
I worked on helping restore one of those that was at the shop when I started working there, that I did a ton of work to. If you want to lose your mind or lose like a couple years off the end of your life, restore a car that has no information and it is like a child of any vehicle that Europe could get their hands on. Because like that thing had
hilarious.
Fiat Fiat window switches. It had like a Ford V8 weird. In it. It had like the rear lights. Where are they from? I don't remember. Like any like piece. It's just like a hodgepodge of everything.
Yeah,
it's like
professional hodgepodge.
I chopped up the nose on a Noble M400 before. I had to do headlight lenses and that. That was terrible. I don't like those cars. They're fun to drive, but horrendous to work on. They're like big kit cars. They literally like the nose is like you lift the whole front end of the car off kind of thing. It's a big fiberglass front end, and the headlights. So like the lenses are glued from the backside into the nose, and then you have a fiberglass like housing that gets glued there, and then you have like the lights that get like screwed in / glued in, and then you have another housing that gets glued. So if you have to replace the lens or repaint the housing because of it's bubbling or whatever, you have to cut all that apart without destroying everything, and it's all urethane and everything. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. Do not recommend.
You said a lot of glue, and
there's a lot of glue. Yes,
a lot of glue, a lot of layers.
A lot of older like coach built or whatever, like custom cars like that are like a low batch, that like were assembled by hand. There's a lot of things like that happen that aren't made to be accessible for people down the road. At least not easily.
Yeah. They're all lifetime sealed.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think it's just job security for the people who made it.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
I've worked on a Countach, I think it's a 50th anniversary, or 25th anniversary, because it was whatever it is. I don't remember. I worked on Countach. I didn't cut into that one though. What else did I don't know. At the point, I just kind of lost track of my life in the past 5 years.
It's funny because in your brain you're indexing over so many cars that we would classify as awesome too. Because you're like, okay, 911, 911, 930, 911.
Through all these cars that were like,
that's the problem. So that's the problem. Like. There was a phase there for like 2 years that I did mechanical work because we needed mechanical help in the shop. So we were gonna have a lot of body work at the time, so I did a lot of mechanical work. And I was like being trained on doing engine work and such for to rebuild the engine for the 911s. And I drove so many 911s in that time that like I became numb to like non-modified 911s. I'm like, oh man, he doesn't even have like a short shifter in this thing. Like this is like the transmission does not want to go into the gear. This one's like it's like the little things that like bother me. Yeah, it's like I told myself I would never be that person that like doesn't get wowed every time you see like a cool car, but now I'm like I feel dead inside. Like it doesn't tickle me unless it's modified, and it's modified in a way that's done tastefully and especially custom above that, and not like off the shelf. I'm gonna bolt these things on.
You need like bespoke. Bespoke's the word.
That's the word you're looking for.
We'll recall 5 minutes ago, and I can add that in. So like if it's not bespoke, I don't want it. That could be a merch thing for you.
For real. Yeah, but I'm afraid of that phrase too, because then it's like, oh, this guy's a snob, and I'm really not. I literally drank. I literally drank a Capri Sun before I got on this. Like, I'm not a snob.
Capri Suns and custom built Porsches.
Yeah,
it's a vibe.
Awesome.
That's sweet.
That's crazy, man. So then, like, I guess we kind of glossed over it a little bit, but like, back to you, like, so all these. That was one of our questions. Is it yours? Is this Slantnose yours?
No, it's
not.
And
it sounds like it's the other guy's project. So like, what do you drive, or like, what got you into cars? Like what was your what is your car story that way?
Okay,
because you said high school you weren't super into cars necessarily.
I'll just go through my car list here. I think it might be fun. I'll go through my history of vehicles I've owned. So my first vehicle was I believe was a 94 Ford Probe, and it was manual. And it was actually my brother's originally, and he had been going to trade school, whatever, for auto body. So he had painted it himself, and it was well done. Now it was a 4-cylinder, it was not a GT, but it was manual, and I could not drive manual, and I had to drive it to my job. My high school job was working at Kmart. I worked at Kmart in high school, and I had to drive the next day after I bought it, and I stalled that thing so many times. In like it took me an ungodly amount of time to learn how to drive manual in that car. I just did not know how to drive manual. It did not make sense to me. Like I'm talking like a month minimum of stalling like every single time I drove the car. I was so bad at it. And I'm overexposing myself right now, but that's the truth. So
no, see, your brain was set forward. You were already set in 911 transmission mode. So this Ford, it just wasn't. It wasn't working for you.
Exactly. So my first car was a Ford Pro, and after that, I had like a Saturn SC2 or whatever, like nothing like exciting, but it was manual though.
Yeah.
And the kid I bought it from actually put a cherry bomb on it, and it was side piped. I do not know why, but I bought it because I had
I was just gonna say. Okay, we had a friend who had an old Saturn, and he had a cherry bomb off the back of it. It wasn't on the side; it was in the back.
Oh,
but same. He drove it like crazy. He blew the differential up because he kept like driving like a race car. Yeah, it was crazy. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you said cherry bomb, I'm like, what?
That's the only way to own one of them.
Apparently, yeah. So it was blue, and I love that car because it had like 100,000 miles on it. It was manual, and it was extremely clean, except for the fact that I had a cherry bomb hanging out the side of the car. I don't understand the thinking behind that. So I drove that thing for a while, and obviously it was incredibly slow and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I felt bad driving around this loud Saturn, and I was like, 17 or 18 at the time. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm so cool. And then my next car after that was a 2003 Mini Cooper S, and it had all the bolt-ons. So I had like a reduction pulley. I put exhaust on it. I put coilovers on it. The
Very
whole
cool.
kind of, it was like that baby blue metallic that I forget what color it was called. I love that car. That car was great. It was also the most unreliable car I've ever owned in my entire life.
Yeah,
it is a BMW. I don't know if you're familiar. We hate on BMW quite a bit.
Pretty hard.
So that's
I'm not familiar, but it fits. It fits.
Yeah.
That car left me sit so many times, but it was a go-kart and it was fast. So that was like my introduction to like, wow, I have a car that's quick. Like this is fun. I should get more fast things because I could totally afford the tickets. Not, but anyway. So after my Mini Cooper, what was next? Okay, so my Mini Cooper, the clutch went out on it, and I don't know if any of you have done a clutch on a Mini Cooper. It's horrendous. And at the time, I was not that mechanically inclined. Like I could do like simple stuff like an alternator or something like that, but like the idea of pulling the transmission off and doing all that and the special tools needed, and like the book time was like 18 hours or something like that. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Like I'm just gonna sell this thing. I don't care anymore. Like I've already beat the crap out of this car anyway, so whatever. I bought a S13 hatchback that had an RB20 in it. I'm like, this will go well. I should definitely buy this. I won't wreck it. I'm going to be so good to this car.
Yeah, this will be a safe, reliable daily. Perfect.
Yeah. I bought it. I immediately welded the rear diff, as anybody does, with an S13. The thing had like Godspeed coilovers on it, so it was horrendous to drive. I came to find out that the front engine mounts weren't even attached. Only one of them was attached, and it was loose. So like when you revved it, the engine would rock to the side and slap the underside of the hood every single time you ripped on it. It was great. It was a phenomenal car.
Oh my gosh!
So over like the 3 years or 2 years I owned it, I think it was like 3 years. I like put like decent coilovers on it. I put a full suspension, like I think it was the ISIS suspension kit on it because it's just terrible otherwise. And I forget what else. I did a bunch of small things to it and made it more reliable. I actually put engine mounts in it, so it was solid. The little things you need.
Keep the engine in place, yeah.
Exactly.
The little thing, engine mounts.
Yeah, exactly. And I naturally put a BR rev limiter on it, so it would shoot fireballs at the back.
Nice.
It was straight pipe the whole. It had a 3-inch straight pipe from turbo back the whole way, so everything was ungodly loud. But an RB20 sounds so good. Yeah, I used to ride around and pop my e-brake up because I had the rev limiter set to my e-brake, so it was set to like 3,000 RPM or whatever, and I'd pop it up one click, and then I would just rev it, and it would just do like machine gun fire at the back with flames like this big. It was great. Oh my gosh. I have a clip of that somewhere. I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can send us pictures of these cars, we'll cut them in as you're introduced.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Now I will say that car looked horrendous. It was like the typical S13 that had like a bazillion owners, so it was like multicolored. And I have like gone through 2 different aero kits on it that are all smashed up because I just hit things to the car all the time. Allegedly, I hit things to that car.
Allegedly.
I allegedly.
So you had a very authentic S13 experience.
Yes,
nice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So then after the S13, what did I have? That's when I was like, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. I need to keep my license. So I bought a friend's.
Did you say that to yourself in self-reflection, or was it more like a, hey son, one more point and you don't have a license, so maybe drive better?
No, it was me to myself because I knew, okay, at the time I was working at that dealership. I was like, if I lose my license, I can't drive dealership cars, so I need to be like calm down a little bit. And I also needed a reliable car because an S13, as you can imagine, with a welded diff and everything else, is not that great in the snow. So so this is actually why I still own the S13. I bought a friend's B5 Avant. It was a 2 liter. It was the V6. Yeah. It was a 2.8. I forget what they are.
2.8.
Yeah.
2.8. Yeah. It was a manual. It was like had lower springs on it. It was silver. It had exhaust. It was incredibly slow, but it was a great a great driver for the snow and whatnot until it's an Audi, so it had tons of mechanical problems as well. But You'll have that.
It'll grenade at some point, but you'll have fun until then.
Exactly. So I beat that around for a while my S13 was driving and not driving in various states of damage. Not my S13 never let me sit, but things did break, but nothing ever broke enough that I couldn't get home. Like, for example,
there we go.
The throttle cable, because it's drive by cable or whatever, the mounting point on top of the engine was like some rigged up thing that someone did because it was an engine swap, and it broke, so I lost throttle driving, and I just dug through the previous owner's junk that was still laying in the trunk of the car, and it was stripped out and it was just laying in the back, and I found like a door hinge, and I bent that and I fed that through the cable on the side of the road, and it worked. And to this day, as far as I know, it's still on there. I don't know.
I did that in my car. I had a Datsun 280ZX as my first car, and I did a carburetor. So it was the EFI, first EFI system. It was terrible, but I took that off and did a carburetor swap and had the drive-by, a little cable running in.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? The cable broke. Yes. I had to drive it through the window. I tied we had some electrical wire because that was just plagued with electrical problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I ran a little green, it's like a house ground cable probably, to the carburetor, and I was just out the window just learning stick for the first time too. Yeah,
that's
apparently
hilarious.
It's just a Nissan Datsun thing.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
And then what did I have after that? I don't remember I got a S2000. I had an S2000 for a little while.
Nice.
It was like 2 years. I bought it. So this is like leading up to like the past like 4 or 5 years of my life. No, I'm sorry. Before S2000, I missed a car. I had a bright red Volvo S60R that was manual, so it had the space ball shifter.
Ooh,
that car was
sweet.
so much fun, and somehow not my like most expensive car I owned, like mechanically, but that car definitely was mechanically challenged for sure. Like it, if you're not familiar with those cars, they have that stupid active suspension, the dynamic like mag suspension or whatever that always goes out.
Oh, sure.
It didn't go out when I owned it, but every now and then it would like have a bad day where it's like, here's some faults, and I'm like, reset, and then it didn't come back, and I'm like, okay, great. 3 months later, we have a fault. Resets.
Was that the one? Did that have the 5-cylinder turbo?
Yes, the inline. Yep.
Okay.
I think it was a 2.5 inline 2.5.
2.5. Okay.
They're like 300 horsepower or whatever. Yeah, and that one I didn't do much to. All I did was I removed the muffler and put a pipe there. And I think I may have done something with the resonator, just a little bit to give a little bit throatier sound, but I didn't want to do much to it. So that car was fun. I sold that and I bought an S2000 that I had for like 2 years, and I felt bad driving it because my commute was long, and I bought it with like 60 or 70,000 miles on it. It was like 2-owner, garage kept. Had all the paint markings and the bolts underneath. It was that like nice. The Suzuka blue, or it's pronounced that like baby blue metallic. Baby blue metallics. I don't know what's up with that, but
you have a trend.
Yeah, exactly. But I had that dark blue interior that I love so much in that car. So I drove that for about 2 years, and I felt bad about the mileage I put on it, so I sold it, and then now I'm driving a 2018. It's a boring adult car right now, but it's a 2018 2018 Accord Sport 2-liter.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those look good.
Yeah, they look good. That's why I got it.
Yeah.
What's that?
You said
manual?
No, it's not. I could not find a manual locally to me, because I bought this right before like when like COVID was starting to happen, and like car prices were already kind of bad. But I needed to buy a car at the time, and I was like, I really want an 8 like that generation Accord, and I wanted it to be a 2-liter, and I needed to find it locally, and there were only like 3 manual ones on like this coast that were for sale, and they were like $7,000 more, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I'm just gonna at least it's not CVT. Like it's still like a regular automatic. So I can deal with that.
Our troubles.
Yeah, CVTs. This is so weird.
They're the most soulless transmission you can drive.
So
squishy.
Yeah, we had a Forester for a little bit. It got totaled out by hail, but it was like, I don't know. It just feels like it's broken the whole time. It's like everything I've learned to know about an automatic transmission.
What's
sounds
slipping?
Like
why is it going like? And the worst part about CVT is that they like program in the fake shifting to make you feel like you're shifting.
Which is this thing had paddle shifters, and I was like, this is like 170 horsepower dumb Forester? Like, why would I? Of all my cars, the only car I've ever had that had paddle
the
shifters.
Squishiest paddle. Just
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And the RPM just kind of like moves a little. But
yeah.
those are weird. Well, that's awesome. So that's quite the car journey. And then now, like you had like an exponential curve, and then now you're talking like, this 911 that I drove didn't really have a short throw shifter. It feels kind of late. Like you have this crazy high threshold for sweet cars now.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Like I said, I'm dead inside when it comes to cars now, and not only that, I just prefer European cars at this point. There's not many American cars I really like. There's very few. In fact, like I can list a couple right now because I had just had this conversation the other day. CTS-V wagons, I love those.
Yep.
For some reason, I love those things, especially like the newer supercharged ones.
They seem European. I think that's why.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
The Ford GT. I think everyone likes that car though. The newer one. And what was the other one? I forget what it was. Oh, Vipers. Like the newer bike, the ACR or whatever. They're nice.
Yeah. I'm sure there are
other American cars I like too.
Crazy.
They're the first things off the top of my head that I like. But again, they're like what all those cars are like way up here. So
yeah. So what do you think of the new? I would imagine this would kind of cross into your territory. So the new flat plane crank Corvette. Like, what do you think about that thing? Because they kind of like, we looked it up, like they legit bought a Ferrari engine on eBay to like reverse engineer it. And then they like built their whole thing. So have you looked into that thing at all? What are your opinions on that?
Honestly, I don't know much about it. I know they sound good. I know they sound good. I know the chassis is kind of ugly to me. Personally. That's my opinion. Personally.
Interesting. Hot takes from Ryan.
This is a spicy take right here. I think that car looks good from the front. I think it looks terrible from the side. That's just my opinion. I feel like the proportions are weird. I feel like the proportions are weird from the front to the rear.
Oh, really?
I think the front has just not sat right with me since it came out.
I'm gonna look up a photo of it right now.
Figure it out.
I want to revisit this.
Yeah.
Okay, we're like, wait, we need the facts.
Actually, this is a good spot while you're looking up photos.
Enhance.
So bad.
Okay.
Look up photos real quick.
Okay, you go grab it. I'll grab a couple too.
So
give us the hot take.
Here's my hot take. All right. So like the front 3/4 view of the car, I think it looks aggressive. I think like the nose looks Corvette. I think the rear does not look Corvette. And my biggest complaint is how on the rear, like the rear quarter panel is higher than the front fender. And I don't know what they were doing with that. I think it looks really weird. And then the rear of the car is atrocious. Like I don't like that look. And I know what they're doing because like the Camaro and all that stuff. Like we got to tie them all together.
Yeah.
Why? Like what were they thinking? But like
it is. I never noticed.
Yeah,
I never noticed how tall that rear fender was until you just said that. Now looking at it from the side,
you can't unsee that.
It's giant.
Yeah,
it looks like it has little tiny like 17s or something.
Yeah,
I assume there's a reason behind it, like some kind of aero thing or whatever. But like for me, like it just looks kind of weird and boxy, and it's also their first their first iteration of it. So I know they're going to refine stuff as every car manufacturer does.
When you see it changing too between the Stingray, I think is just the base, right? Z51 Stingray or whatever, and then to the Z06, that one has changed shape a little bit with different body styling, and then now they have the E-Ray leaked, which is basically a McLaren GT but made by Chevy. Like it looks identical, and it's also hybrid and all that stuff. Like they changed that might even be GT or E-Ray.
This is
whatever.
Wikipedia special.
And
man.
then
I don't know what I pulled up.
do you know about? I don't know how. Like we recently in a recent episode got like into this about like the next 4 models that they're coming out with. Do you know about the Zora that's going to be coming out in 25?
I just hinted. I hinted a little bit to him when he walked away. But
so and I thought this was interesting, just as a little backstory on the Corvette, because I've never really been huge into Corvettes.
Yeah.
Like our dad loves them. Had one for a little while.
That's his Trans Am license plate in the background.
That's right. So like always thought they're cool. Obviously they're high power, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I never really knew the backstory. So the original creator of it, original designer, not Michael Zora. It was remember something else. His name's definitely not Michael, but Zora something. His dream for it was like a supercar. It was a mid-engine, all-wheel drive. Like if you look up the original C1 Corvette design initially, looks a lot like the C8. It's kind of funny that they like took all this time to get back around. So anyways, they're planning a 1,000+ horsepower all-wheel drive twin turbo version of the flat plane crank for that one. So it'll be interesting to see what that ends up looking like, because they're gonna have to change some of the stuff in the rear to fit all that together. Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
That'll be the new. I don't know if you get a lot of like LS swapped 911s. I know I see occasionally on like Porsche
I've actually
pages
never
that people
seen
do
one in the shop. I've never seen one in the shop.
I was gonna say you're gonna get one of these crazy crate engines swapped in, but you've been fortunate enough to not witness that whole side of things.
The abomination.
The abomination.
Those two worlds don't seem to mesh up, right?
No,
if
there's
if you want to go like bespoke, like custom hand builds, Porsche, you're probably not putting like, let's toss an LS in it.
Right.
Nope, I lost audio there.
Phone call? No, we're good.
Oh, you're back. Never mind, we're good.
We're back.
Sorry, I got a phone call. We're good.
You're like, and you guys are gone. Power must have gone out. So where, bringing it back to your stuff, like where do you get inspiration from as far, okay, so this is this is a selfish question of mine. So I'm looking at, I've got the WRX that I need to do a lot of body work to, and I've got the 944 that's going to become Safari-esque. And so there's a lot of different lanes as far as inspiration goes when it comes to like body panel stuff. And I know a little bit, I work like adjacent to the automotive industry. So I know like the levels that people go through to like get, like it's a high honor spot to get to form the face of the car and to get to form the side panels of a car. And that's like huge prestige levels as far as designers go. So like where do you look as far as like your inspiration for your shapes for stuff? Or is it just a feel thing? Because like you have such a unique classic look with your stuff, and it doesn't like, there's that Liberty Walk F40 that just came out that's like very Liberty Walk look, and there's like all these kind of other vibes. Like what is your source of inspiration for this stuff?
So it's funny you ask that. So Tony and I, when we started this, the reason that we were like all aboard, like working together, is because we have a very similar design taste, and that taste is actually to keep it as Porsche as possible. So like our goal whenever we design anything and build it is that we want people to think, hey, Porsche may actually have made that, or like it's like a but yeah, they made that. So like when we made the 996 Slantnose, the idea, so like when Porsche makes they change like from 996 to 997, for example, or like 997, 991, or whatever, they usually have like a special edition model between that's like the Heritage Edition, like, or whatever else. It's like their Speedster or whatever, right? So and usually that special model has like components of the next generation that like they're testing with, like facelift and whatnot. So the goal was to make the 996 like the Slantnose be like what would have been between the 996 and 997. So we wanted to like ever so slightly modernize it for the era, but also keep it like all look like the flow, the proportions, everything else look like it's Porsche itself. So excuse me, this filter is not doing me any good right now. So for inspiration, we actually sit down and we look at the car, and we spend hours just like looking at the car, talking about, okay, like where we need to go this much wider. We want to do like maybe a little bit more aggressive or whatever. We want to be so much that it's like bolt on or whatever. Like it's like giant hips or whatnot, but we want it to actually flow like Porsche would. So we go, okay, so what are wider Porsche cars that Porsche has built, and how can we incorporate those details into this build? So we like pour over Porsche build. So like for the Slantnose, for example, we actually used a lot of inspiration from the GT1 and the 935. So you'll see like in the rear hips, the intakes on the quarter panels are very reminiscent to the GT1. The ducktail in the back is like a scaled down version of the GT1. Little things like that. The vents that are behind the wheels in the back, they're like loosely off the GT1. And we also look at, okay, so in the GT1, for example, or any other Porsche, like how did they choose the angles, like the approach lines, everything else for like the scoops and whatnot? And was that based off of another component on the car? Like, because you usually, like when you design a part of a car, right, you borrow theory from everywhere else in the car. So like on the Slantnose, for example, I remember doing TikTok on this a while ago, and people were like, their minds were blown. So like on the Slantnose, we have that little ducktail in the back, and it has like a little curvature to it. So I took a profile of that exact curvature and used that same curvature on the bottom of the diffuser, on the little like stakes that stick down. Because sure, it's maybe yes, it's less efficient, but number one, it's not a track car, so it's not going to be 100% efficient. And number two, if you look at the car from the side now, you have two different profiles that have the exact same curvature that is just really appealing to the eye. It's subtle things that like it kind of like we think it brings it to the next level, I guess, and that's something that we think that Porsche would have done as well, because it's a design theory thing. It's to keep things like it's very easy to hyperfixate on one like individual thing. Actually, here's some advice: if you want to design something for a car, figure out what that is. So if you're going to make, say, a diffuser, right? Obviously, you need to like think about that individually, but you need to stand back and look at the car as a whole as well, and make sure that it actually is like incorporating into the entire car. Because if it's too obtuse to the car, it's going to be like something feels really off about this, and I don't know what it is. And it's because maybe you should have angled something like 3 degrees more, and then suddenly it all kind of lines up. unless you want it to be abstract to the car, and there is taste to that as well. But usually in the design world, less is more. So like the 928, for example, like, yeah, it's a lot wider and there's features about it, but there's only a couple features that are like in your face. The rest of it, it's very subtle, and we want it to be subtle because it kind of complements those main features.
Mm-hmm. That is really cool. That is great advice. And that's like a good, I was one of the people that I saw that TikTok and was like, what? And then was paying attention very closely to other elements of your build too, to just see like where that was happening. Because it's just like genius. It's like the obvious genius stuff where you're like, oh, of course that should be the same angle when you see it afterwards. That's
like
really
one
cool.
of those things that you don't like, you look at something, you're like, I don't know what, like layman's eyes, like me over here, looks at something like that and goes, I don't know why that looks so good, but it looks so good. And it's the same reason that other cars that people, garage modify look off.
Right.
Or like if I've done something on my car and I'm like, I don't know why, but this just it just doesn't, something doesn't fit just right.
100%.
And it's that's super cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, hey man, so I realize we're at about an hour.
We're getting up there.
We can wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Appreciate it.
We definitely should do this again soon, especially as the 928 like further on. We'd love to hear updates.
And I just learned that you are not in California and you are in Pennsylvania, right?
I'm in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I just had been talking about you as in California, and this morning
you're like West Coast time. I'm like East Coast, but and he's like, no, West.
So, anyways, we're not all that far. We're
in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're not all that far.
Cheese
crazy way.
Yes, cheese and beer.
Cheese and
lots
beer.
of both of those things. So we should do like maybe we'll swing down sometime.
Yeah.
Over.
Road trip out.
Yeah.
We'll see if the 944 works. We'll bring it out.
Yeah. Once we do the rally stuff on it.
Yeah, there we go.
Then we can go and then we can do a video of you just criticizing all of the proportions being off and all the lines not lining up.
We'll call the episode Porsche Ends.
Ooh, I like that. That's good. I like that one.
But anyway, man, is there anything like, let everybody know where they can find you if there's anything else that we can shuttle people your way? What do you got going on?
Yeah. So our biggest focus and what we work on the most is our YouTube channel right now, which is Crucible Coachwerks on YouTube. That's where every single week we put out build updates on our 928 or other projects in the shop that we make progress on, and we try to have a lot of fun with it as well. It's not very dry. It's actually a lot of comedy and whatnot too built into it. So that's honestly the only thing I really want to plug is our YouTube channel. So I'm not going to harass you guys with anything else. If you want to find more, you can go to our YouTube channel and find other links. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is a lot of fun. So I'll be back.
Thanks so much for coming on. This has been fun. This has been really fun.
Cool. But thank you so much, man. Well, anyway, have a good one. Thank you everybody for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and have a good one.
Peace.
Later.